this is Thor. He is a streamer for Twitch. He's done work with EA and Hi-Rez and more I'll let you elaborate on. But through streaming, he found his way into game design. So he's going to tell you his story about how he became a broadcaster and is now working with Hi-Rez on teams like Paladins and Evil Mojo. So
it's going to be fun. It's
yeah.
going to be fun. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I know this might be a little weird. Let's get everybody kind of come in. I'm going to approach.
Come up front.
Yeah, I'm going to approach this. I can't top you when it comes to. I can't top you when it comes to presentation. So we're going to do a little bit different. Let's jump. The industry's only getting smaller, so let's get a little closer with everybody.
So you can throw things in.
Yes. All right. I need a chair as well, if that's okay. Oh. Woo. There we go. Lily's not even miking me up. How dare you? Oh, yeah. It's a clicker. Okay. Oh, you're my clicker. Oh, we're going to be best friends. Okay.
I'm going to do the wave now, okay?
Just careful not to get
I was down.
Same thing.
All right. So, fun fact, that's me whacking somebody in the face at PAX East 2016. So, we are no longer able to throw things at attendees when we go to, and so that is my biggest contribution to the video game industry. So, let's wrap this thing up and let's go home. But this is me. I've worked from Twitch to Gigantic to Dreadnought, Dreadnought back to Twitch, to Smite, to Realm Royale, to consulting on Hyperscape, the Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, back to Realm Royale, then to Paladins, and now I'm working on an NDA. That's my girlfriend, and I love her very much. I started way back in community and streaming back in 2014.
He peaked in 2014.
Yeah, that's the joke. I peaked in 2014. So, yeah, got connected to companies like EA, and the rest, as I'll talk about, is history. It was definitely, we can go back just real quick. Come on, Bob, don't cut me off.
Give me a problem.
My first game was Gigantic. I worked as community, and which is really weird because Gearbox is like, hey, by the way, we're gonna bring Gigantic back. So yeah, that was an interesting conversation about a couple of months ago. But I do want to start this off saying that, fun fact, I don't feel like I know anything in the video game industry. And 10 years now, and I'm still learning, and I still wake up and I'm like, hey, I don't know anything. So we'll talk about that though. Let's move on. So my video game industry roles. At first, I was a community manager when I worked over at Gigantic, and I got yelled at pretty much on a daily basis. Us gamers are smart, they're passionate, and they kind of take that vitriol and they bring it over to you on the forums. And so got my stripes there for sure. But a big part of that was getting to show off how developers work. What do they do? Your art, your passion. And I got a very, very healthy understanding and respect for the kind of work that developers do. I kind of moved over to a consultant after that. I wanted to kind of work for myself, and I was able to kind of bridge that gap between streamer and developer. I was able to kind of mute a little bit the conversations that some gamers were having at the developers, take all that vitriol, condense it down to really what the core was, and bring it back. And as a broadcaster, I kind of bridged that gap between developer and streamer. Moved over to designer, and that was funny. That was an interesting time. As a streamer and a gamer, oftentimes we feel like we know better than the developers themselves. And we're like, if I could just nerf that fireball, this game would be better. And I erroneously thought that way too for the longest time. And so as I jumped into the designer role, I actually had a very, very fun opportunity from Hi-Rez to kind of take in pseudo EP role for Realm Royale, being able to make the decisions, whether it was like monetary values, are we going to sell a skin and make $20,000 to keep our game up, or how are we going to do levels? And Realm Royale was a live service game, it still is, it's still running, with about a 3.5 CCU, and it was interesting. I got to kind of step into the role of an EP, make decisions that would affect the outcome of the game. And I have a healthy respect for a lot of the different roles and responsibilities that everybody does. So that was fun. That was a very fun time. Now I do a lot of level design, and I'm working on Paladins right now, and working on an NDA title, and the team was like, hey, we need somebody to jump into level design. I was like, how hard can it be? And turns out it's its own basket of puppies for sure. I love it. I do on my day-to-day basis. I look at Unreal 3. Last year when I was here, I was working a lot in Unreal 3, and now I'm working in Unreal 5, 5.3, and hopefully 5.4 in the future. So a lot of people talk about Unity, and so and somebody's like, you mentioned Unreal, and I was like,
yeah, dude, Unreal is amazing.
I'm the one in the back. I'm the one in the back working
Yes.
in Unreal. So yeah, and Joe, you mentioned something about Unity as well, and all the shenanigans back in the day, or last year. Yeah, last year. And Cupcake, who works with other developers, yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it? Yeah. So those are my roles. Those are the things I've done so far. But yeah, I had a hard think last night, and I should have done your slideshow looks much better than mine, by the way, as you can tell.
He's all professional.
I felt called out in the back. He's like, look how easy I did this. And meanwhile, Lily, last night about 8 o'clock, she's like, we have to go. And I'm sitting there working on the slideshow. So
Right, for how many hours? Right?
yeah, oh yeah, no, that was yeah. So yeah, I wanted to kind of get everybody together, take a couple steps forward. Let's talk about you for a bit, because as everybody kind of alluded to so far, is that video game industry is scary. I think we lost 6,500 jobs last year, and then we're already on pace right now to eclipse that. And that's sad, and that's scary, and that's, I'm sure your grandma calls, like, what you doing, Jordy? And he's like, I'm getting the video game industry. He's like, I don't know, Jordy, I saw that thing. I saw the kids losing the jobs. What are you going to do, Jordy? Yeah, for sure. It's scary. It's scary. Even in the last 10 years, people always tell you the video game industry, everybody knows everybody, and that's still true. And it is getting smaller, right? But, you mentioned it's also one of the best times to get in the industry. That led me into, we do live in exciting times. I started off in community management. I have my nose in just YouTube videos talking about, hey, how do I do this? I spend so much of what I do learning off of other people's great shoulders and great just things they've done in the past. I joke around about MapQuest. My mom would be like, hey, go print something. Yeah, you laugh, right? So MapQuest, for people who don't know, we had a conversation about this, is that if I wanted to go somewhere, I'd have to go onto yahoo.com, I'd have to get the address, and then I'd have to print out the instructions, and a printer would beep, 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 4 or 5 pages, and your mom would be like, go get the MapQuest directions. I would leave 1 page behind, right? So we're somewhere, and suddenly your mom turns around and is like, hey, what's the next turn, right? And you're like, uh-oh, I left that other page back at home, right? And my hide would be tanned. Oh, that was a good time. But we don't live in that world anymore. Now we can just look up things. I work with TAs, technical artists. I work with programmers, and it's a great time to be alive in the game industry. It really is. I was there for the transition between 2D to 3D, and how amazing that was, playing from PlayStation 1, seeing 3D polygons, and that was such a wild time. But now, like you rightly alluded to, AI is coming, and how are we going to take advantage of that? And so, your generation, you get to take advantage of that. That's going to be one of your North Stars, I would say. Yeah, so I racked my brains to say, how can I help you? The do's, the don'ts, things that if I would have known now what I knew then, I would be so much farther along. And that's something I regret. I love the path that I got here with. I love the things, the people I met. The people is what makes this journey worth it. But I lament the fact that if I would have been your age now, going down this path, I would have known so much more. I wasted a lot of time. So, in light of that, yeah, I'm so jealous of each and every single one of you. So, but it's the people. It is the people. Let's talk about game design, though. I know for some people out here it might be a little embarrassed, but who would like to be a designer? Why are you here? Are you here to specifically learn about this talk, to become a designer? So you.
Studying it.
There we go. Nothing wrong with that. For you, what kind of designer do you want to be? What are your favorite games?
I gotta be honest. When it comes to VR, Asgard's Wrath on the way.
Okay. So Shakti, the person that I actually replaced at Hi-Rez, actually went to go work on Asgard's Wrath, and big shoes to fill, and I don't think I'll ever fulfill them. So Shakti's a good friend of mine.
But when it comes to PC, currently I'm on Warframe.
Okay, Warframe. So I take it you like shooters then? So as a designer, when it comes to shooters specifically, there's terminology that's such as like pre-fire and post-fire. Are you familiar with those?
Yes.
Cool, awesome. Could you give me an example of a weapon that has maybe an interesting pre-fire?
Okay. I'd say any weapon with some form of spin-up where it starts to ramp up its rate of fire, that's something you pre-fire immediately once you hear those footsteps. Something where it has a delayed shot, that's something you start that charge every time you're running around the corner. or say a shotgun. That's something that you definitely never pre-fire. Never pre-fire with any form of shotgun weapon.
Yeah, I should be worried about my job. It took me a lot longer to figure this out. No, you're exactly right. So for me, a pre-fire, I think of like a revolver, right? So it takes a while for that hammer to kind of go back, and then pop, and then you get that kind of shot, or a railgun, as you pointed out. Yeah, that's awesome. Talk to me about that. I find a lot of the best designers, at least in where I work, are people who work on games that they're passionate about. Because quite frankly, I don't have time to play games anymore. And so I try to suck the brain out of people who are so happy and full of life. They come in and they're like, oh, hi. And so I love that. And I'm just like, cool, I don't get to play video games anymore. Talk to me about it. Yeah, so when it comes to fighting games, people talk about like animation canceling. They talk about frames and all that kind of stuff, and I get excited because I don't know anything about that. When it comes to shooters, TTK, long versus short, using abilities like Apex versus a Call of Duty, right, which is more obviously weapon focused. Those are all things you'll kind of go down. And when you find yourself gravitating towards those kind of games, learn about it. Become the expert there. And when somebody does an interview with you and you say, hey, tell me exactly about our game and what do you bring to the table? You could say, hey, yeah. Quite frankly, I think your game has gotten too fast. Like the time to kill is too fast or slow, and why? And that's the kind of stuff that I really look for. That's my face when I interview a designer that kind of talks to me about that. But ooh, okay, this is good. I like that. My speciality, you can kind of see that in Hyperscape or Gigantic, was abilities. I love abilities. Realm Royale had abilities, fireballs, and my specialty is kind of getting the smartest people together and talking about abilities. So when it comes to a fireball, how do you balance that fireball? Because you'll see the internet and be like, oh, if this thing was 10 damage less, it would be better, right? Cooldowns, time to kill. Does the fireball put a dot on the target, right? If you hit a person with 3 fireballs, do they explode for additional damage? That's what gets me excited. That's something that I generally love about game design is when it comes to abilities. Now, systems and the system designer and all that kind of stuff, that is just above me. I look at people who create economy for MMORPGs and I'm like, what magic is this? I don't know. Yeah, 100%. I'm like, I give you $1, I get something back. And it's funny, I play World of Warcraft and I love my guild and Lily Raid, she's a healer. So every night I show up for raid night, and one of my best friends gives me like potions and gold and stuff like that because I don't have enough time to play. And somebody said, "Aren't you don't you work in the video game industry?" And I was like, "Dude, I don't have time for the economy and all that." So yeah.
I just use Warframe.market. They tell me what the thing is worth. I pay them back.
For sure. But if you find yourself gravitating towards the numbers, the economy, that is so important because I wouldn't know what to do. So trust yourself. If you find yourself gravitating towards that kind of design stuff, I see it all the time. You know, I once look at like Blizzard careers. I look at other careers and I see opening for economy designers, level up designers, stuff like that. Those exist. So have a little bit of faith in yourself. If you find yourself gravitating towards that, say, okay, what can I do? But yeah, it's funny. This is Realm Royale. This is before I joined the team. I had about 2,400 hours, and then I jumped in as a designer. I may have added about 100 hours to that, and so I was like, I don't even play my own game anymore, and it's sad, and I hate it. And hopefully, other game studios, and we definitely push for this internally, is to take a step back. Play your game, get dirty with it, just roll in the mud. And so I try, but that's the sad truth of it.
Break every rule that you created.
Yep.
Exactly, that's good.
Something DE's been doing with Warframe.
And Joe, I have to say, I listened to your talk, and a lot of those things rang true. A lot of those things, and so enjoyed that one. So designer, every designer can be different. You know, some say all roads lead to Rome. These are some of the things that I wish I would have known in my field. So obviously I do PvP games. Hi-Rez is known for a lot of free-to-play titles, Smite, Paladins, so on and so forth. These are things that I would pass on to the next generation to say, hey, look into it. It might really behoove you. And let me just like put an asterisk here. Indie developers, you are the golden child, because when I talk to indies, they're like, yeah, I do all this already. This is, and a lot of times I talk to indies and they're like, I wish I could just specialize in one thing. Exactly.
Game design Jesus.
Yeah, so it's really a flip-flop back. You know, Hi-Rez or designers like myself, we've had to learn how to like spec out and be like, talk to the language. And where indie people, you just know that, and they yearn to oftentimes be like, I wish I could just be an X designer. So, One thing that I would impress on the younger generation is learn tech art. That is so important. I have a great relationship with whether it's Sean York, whether it's Ivy. When I'm helping make a game, oftentimes I'll go to a tech art. And for people who don't know, they are often charged in hooking up a lot of the animations, materials. If you have a chair and you want to slap a mat onto it, they'll be the person to set up that material. And they are a great link in creating that dream. So if you find a tech art friend, get them flowers and send them a present, because they're gonna get you a long way. So understanding mats, mix, all that kind of language, and it can sound like legal jargon oftentimes when somebody's talking to you. They're like, and you're like, what are you saying? And that was something I learned as a designer, was that I had to I don't have to know it, I don't have to understand it on a molecular level, but I have to be able to speak it, and I have to be able to say, hey, yeah, okay, this material's broken, the nodules are broken, cool, how can we fix this? Or take it to a tech artist and say, cool, help me out. So that's the big one. Programmers. The dynamic between programmer and game designer goes back to the end of time, and it really does. And so it's funny you mentioned AI and ChatGPT. I actually use ChatGPT to scan the internet for things about Unreal 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so they threw me in Unreal 3. They said figure it out, and Stu was like, hey, use ChatGPT. I didn't really put much stock into it. So back then, when Unreal 3 was first being made, this game's for like Smite, YouTube would only let you upload in 8-minute segments, and so that's back in like 2005, 7, and so oftentimes the tutorials will be in like 7-minute segments. You'll watch something and be like, and the next thing, and you're like, where's the next video? What's happening? Like, what do I do? And then it's like, oh, by the way, you have a milestone due next week. And you're like, I don't know what to do. There's no guide here. So for me, in my workflow last year, ChatGPT helped being able to just scrub the internet and be like, what are the hotkeys? What are the things that I need to learn? And it was wrong occasionally, but without it, I would have been. Because the arbiters of truth of Unreal 3 has been lost to the echoes of time. So that was me, and that's how AI has helped my flow.
So again, it helps it helps you with time.
Yeah. But if I had to pass on this little bit of knowledge, learn some kind of programming language, whether it's Blueprints, Python, C++. I am a child running around in the forest, proverbially naked when it comes to blueprints, but I'm trying. I can blueprint a door to open and close and all that kind of stuff. If you can go back real quick. There. So I've heard rumblings and rumors that Unreal 6 is going to be really diving into verse. I can't speak to that, but that is what, I've heard just Tim Sweeney and Epic that verse is going to be the thing. So I don't know, maybe that's a tidbit in 10 years from now, like, oh yeah, that one speaker told me to learn verse. I don't know, that's what I've heard. I work with a programmer named Feisty, so I want to give him a shout out, but if you can find a programmer friend, you can be best friends, because, is that the dynamic duo? But yeah, kind of putting a capstone specifically on the do's. Understanding the language is going to get you so much further when you're having the conversations in a collaborative space, and that's something I wish I would have known 10 years ago. So it's okay. You're going to feel a sense of like, what is that person saying? But just take the time, learn it. Honestly, for people who are running programs for game design, I would love to see a world where they had a dictionary or a flashcard to be like, hey, study these 5,000 terms, and because that would be so good. Because every time somebody hits me with a term that I don't know, I go ChatGPT. I go somewhere, and I wish there was just a dictionary or a thesaurus to let me know exactly what somebody's talking to me about. So,
The Python encyclopedia game design.
yeah, that would be nice. That way I don't look like an idiot when somebody's like, yeah, the materials are not. Yeah, I want that. I look online a lot of the times for that kind of stuff, for sure. And somebody's like, oh, the spline actor. And I'm like, what? I didn't know what a spline actor was when I first started. And then but speak the language. But it doesn't mean you have to know what it does. It's going to be a slow process, but I promise you'll get there. Want to do the next one? The do's, and this is going to sound very, very simple, but go make something. I've heard this so many times when I look at somebody's like, go out there, go make something, do it, and for rightly so, like, people will be like, oh yeah, this is why I would want to do it, just ship it, just get it out there. And I think a part of this that people miss a lot of the times is that the familiarity with the engine is something that is not apparent, but that's where you're getting a lot of the traction. It's what you can do in those 30 minutes after you get more and more familiar with it. When I'm teaching somebody Unreal, when I'm going into Unreal, I'm not an expert in Unreal, but I know when I spend more and more time with it, I spend less time saying, where's that drop down? Where's that X? Where's that thing? And so suddenly, where I could make a box and move the box around using blueprints when I first got started, now I can do exponentially more in those 30 minutes. And it's because of the familiarity with that actual engine itself. And that was just, that was absolutely. I'll give you an example. Unreal has a thing when it comes to Niagara effects where there's like 4 different check marks where it says visibility, don't have visibility, visibility, don't have visibility. And so, I was like, why is this thing not showing up in game? And I turned the visibility on with 1 check mark and it would show up. And then somebody else was like, oh no, there's another checkbox. So spent another 20 minutes, I found it next day. And I was like, it's still not showing up. It's like, did you uncheck it? I was like, yeah, I did these 2. He's like, no, there's another one. So yeah, after 4 days, I found out there's actually 4 check marks for a single thing to make it visible in game. And it was learning that. And I got so mad. And I was like, why would they do this? And everybody's like, I don't know, it's just a thing. So yeah, go make something. That familiarity with the engine is going to pay dividends for the long course. Second one is make a playlist. Lily will come home, see me just staring at the TV and just watching a YouTube video. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Chaos destructibility in Unreal Engine. And I'll sit there and I'll just watch it. I'm just like, all right, here we go. Then I'll play it again. I'm like, all right, second time around, here we go, let's watch it. Yeah, and oh, it's bad. It's real bad, but that's how you learn. That's how I've learned, and that's how I've. Is there better ways? I'm sure there is. Do yourself a favor. As you watch more and more videos on YouTube explaining things like destructibility in the Chaos engine for Unreal, just hit watch later and just keep hitting bang, bang. I'll come to it later. I'll come to it later. I'll come to it later. And whether I'm driving to work, whether I've just got a couple minutes, I'll throw the beanbag chairs down. I make a playlist and I absorb it. And you, the younger generation, you live in that world where there's so many tutorials coming at you. And it can feel so like oppressive. And you're like, I didn't learn anything. This hurts my head. Just try it. Just get in there, get dirty. Give yourself 30 minutes. Watch the video again. And there's a difference between understanding what you're watching and then anticipating what the tutorial is trying to tell you. So as an example, I was messing around with destructibility in Unreal Engine. And at first, I would watch the tutorial. I'd play it back. I would try to do it. And I would get stuck on a lot of parts. But it wasn't until I got a lot more time in the engine that I say, okay, I know why this isn't working, and I know where to go. It will hit you. I promise it will hit you. But just make a playlist, keep watching the tutorials, and put the reps in. And we call it getting the reps in, and that really pays dividends. And the last one is be the best. I know this sounds like some malarkey an old person would say on a stool or somewhere and be like, hey, come on, kids, you got to be the best. But I asked myself, is there a Toriyama in this classroom? So for people who don't know, Toriyama was the creator of Dragon Ball. He did Chrono Trigger and one of the geniuses, in my opinion, somebody I very much looked up to, and I would classify him as one of the best. I see, personally, a lot of the times, is when things get hard, people take a step back, and I get that. Trust me, I get that. You've seen how many times, Lily, I've been at home and where I'm just like trying to understand a concept, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I don't know what I'm looking at right now. Attack it. Get after it. I promise you, there's people who know more than you. You got to catch up, and you'll get there. Believe in yourself, and I know this all sounds like simple platitudes, but if you're passionate about it, you get at it, you'll make strides. And I just see oftentimes, especially among my peers, where it's like, hey, this is hard. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, this is the best time. You're young. You're out there. You got the whole world ahead of you. And I know it sounds like I'm a grandpa on a stool somewhere, but please, do yourself a favor. Get hungry. And I look at the people next to me. I have one of my friends in the next slide. His name's Sam. The kid's a genius. He really is. And it's one of those people that are just born with that brain. You're just like, man, Sam, how did you do that? And I don't know if I'll ever catch him, but damn it, I'm going to try. I'm going to give it my best shot. And he's kind of that North Star. And it's funny. Again, I ask him all these sorts of questions and whatever. And the other day, he turns around and we were sitting back to back. And he's like, hey, do you have an HDMI 2 cord? And he's like, is this it? And I turned around. And I'm like, an HDMI 2 cord, Sam, what are you talking about? And he had a display cord in his hand, looking at it. I'm like, that's not an HDMI 2 cord. He's like, yes, it is. it's a DP, it stands for double. It's a HDMI 2 cord. And so as smart as Sam is in Unreal and making games and stuff like that, he still didn't know. I was like, Sam, that's not an HDMI 2 cord, you idiot. I love you. So yeah, I love Sam. Sam's great. He's a genius, right? But yeah, that definitely put it into perspective. So let's go into the don'ts. Don't give up. Yeah, like I said, oftentimes the mental stress of learning new things can be so frustrating, especially when you're new to the engine, when you're new to game design, when you're new to making something. That all of those tutorials going into your head, you can just feel like a pressure in the back of your skull. And at least that's how it was for me. Don't give up. And oftentimes, like I said, whether it's symbols, whether it's trying to learn language and stuff like that, you're just like, what am I doing? Also make sure you have that checkbox on or whatever. That, again, I lost a day's work because I didn't know there was a secret checkbox that I had to do. I get it, trust me. But one thing you can't not do is don't forget to look back. Write down your achievements, write down the time that you made a thing, right? Say, hey, when I look back 6 months ago, I didn't know the difference between BSP, volumes, level design, all that kind of stuff. And I get so lost in what I'm doing in the moment where I'm like, I don't understand this thing that I'm working on. Why am I dumb? Why am I stupid? And one of my best friends was like, hey, look what everything you've done in the last year, right? Write it down. I'm like, this is stupid. This is one of those things that your therapist tell you to do, right? And I did it, and I was like, holy crap. I did a cost analysis on skins and how many skins it would take to keep servers up. I learned the difference on how to do mats, materials, and mix and what that means and how to apply it to static meshes. I learned how to retarget skeletal animal bones, animation bones, and blueprints and all that kind of stuff. And it gives you a healthy respect of how much you've gone forward. So I know what it sounds like. Oh, right, I gotta write it down. But when you're feeling at your lowest and you feel like you can't understand another concept, write it down. It definitely helps. And the last thing I would say for the younger generation is don't be afraid to ask for help. Nobody came into this world knowing Unreal 5.4. Nobody came into this world knowing Unity. And maybe Sam did, but for everybody else out there, don't be afraid to ask for help. We're a very small industry, and I know some of us love to help and teach, and that's when you see people in roles of education, and that's awesome, and we love that, but don't be afraid to ask for help. I see so many people kind of crumble in on themselves, like, I'm stupid, I don't know that, I should know that. Look at my peer next to me moving at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, it's okay, and you're not selling anybody to anybody else. You're not saying, hey, I'll give you, if you sell me this, I'll give you some coveted information in the ARC. No, that's not what that's about. It's like, hey, I see you figured that out. What am I missing here, right? And yeah, the industry's small, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. So that being said, that's my do's, don'ts, and finally, this is game day. I'm doing level design right now by trade and helping out with some other aspects of our product, but we had a marketing person who was like, hey, I would love to help out with level design, and I had a QA person be like, I would also love to help out with QA or level design, and I was like, oh, okay. So I put a classroom on, and I was like, we're going to learn how to put materials onto static meshes, and what does that mean, and what are mix, and what does this all mean? So yeah, I was like, hey, we have a master, you have a material that goes into a mic. Material can either be blue, or you can make a mic of it, make it red. This is what a static mesh. You have red spokes, black tires. That static mesh needs to have elements, and yeah, that's out of my presentation for my fellow employees, that's what I ended up with. So and they're like, yeah, thanks, Thor, that helped a lot. But my point is, don't in your mind think of some of these higher studios, EA, Blizzard, Hi-Rez, all that kind of stuff. Don't think that we're in a room somewhere where we have to use the best chalkboards. We have people who are sitting down and explaining everything like, no, we're getting dirty, we're trying to figure stuff out, and we're making stuff in paint just like the rest of the people, right? And so don't consider yourself like lower, like developers or indie developers if you ever think that, because yeah, we're doing the same thing in our back rooms as well. So with that being said, yeah, ask me anything. Yeah, let's talk, let's chat.
What kind
No,
of...
that's questions in the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. And then yell at me and say I'm doing a bad job.
Okay,
Close the mic.
oh, yep. You said you worked for EA. Can you give us like any titles that you worked on while you were with EA?
So EA was a very interesting one. So that was back in 2014. I was a broadcaster, and this idea between a broadcaster and a developer kind of working in hand was a very unique new phenomenon. I was just a streamer, and so when I say I worked with EA, they would bring me over to shows, and they would have me have conversations with other people and be like, hey, this is why I love this game. And it was that really unique experience of a content creator who, again, I had aspirations of working in the video game industry. And this is back ancient history. This is 2014, and so that idea that a streamer could
This is back when Titanfall 1 first released.
Oh, even before that, my friend. But yeah. And so I just worked very closely with EA. EA's like, hey, can we fly you out? We'd love you to do a PAX East, talk about the game in front of hundreds and thousands of people, and I loved it. It was a great time, really great time. And now people like Tiger Lily has taken that idea and just moved that goalpost further and further and further. And the idea of somebody coming from the broadcaster community and now actually working as a community manager, that's a very commonplace thing these days. I remember when I applied or whatever, they were like, I don't know, you're dropping dank memes on Twitch. I don't know if you're the right kind of person to work at our company. But hey, here we are. Yeah. Great question.
Well, there was a question in chat. What's your Twitch channel?
Thor. Yes. Thor. Yeah.
You were the first?
I'm retired now, but I'm an old boy. Yeah. And all hats on the table. I wouldn't be where I am without the Twitch community where I am today. So, got a lot of love for them. Yeah.
What's one game you would point out for really good design that people should study?
Metal Gear. No. Hideo Kojima. Jeez Louise. It's funny. I was making a joke, right? But it's weird to see Helldivers, the animations and a lot of the things play homage to Metal Gear Solid 5. I saw that. I was like, ooh, okay. Metal Gear. I really do. As far as great design goes, mobile-wise, I've heard, while I haven't played it, I heard Marvel Snap did a really great job. And so I know there was a lot of accolades hoisted onto them. I don't know. Final answer is going to be Metal Gear. Having said that, I think oftentimes we don't give enough credit for games that last 7, 8, 9 years. Like as an example, I play Warzone, and I'm the first one to call out Warzone and be like, this sucks. Like what are they thinking over there? But I got to give them credit. They've managed to stay relevant, keep putting out games, keep developers hired, and they do it in a way where if you play Warzone, if you want to play Warzone now, and you could jump in and you could play games, and you could be competitive and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's something special. As a Blockbuster kid, I'd ask my mom, be like, hey mom, can I go run a game? And if I pick that wrong game, ain't no way. I would have a bad weekend. This guy's shaking his head back there. Yeah, so shout out to Call of Duty, man. You can jump in, you can play, you can grind some guns, and you can be competitive in the Warzone. I think that's pretty special, for sure. What's up?
And you can be mean with no consequences.
Yeah, that's Lily. She's the mean one. she poops talk like with the best of them. I love it. Yeah, she's the excuse me waiter, my husband did not order this and video games, and I love it. I stand behind her. I'm like, yes, for sure.
So regarding level design, conceptually, what do you and your team, what are the steps to figure out where we're going to start, how it's going to be fun, and then how to reiterate, like, well, this wasn't fun, how do we get rid of this, how do we play test with certain things that aren't built entirely, how do you, like, just what are the steps?
Sure. Taking a step back, I heard the conversation between you and your coworker about you two, you have to come to a consensus, specifically when you move forward. Totally understand. As somebody who has, again, I don't want to be like an old gray beard on the mountain, I've been able to see a lot of things, and oftentimes I will take those lessons and I will put them in my back pocket. And there was a sense of me being like, no, we shouldn't do this next thing because I've seen it in the past before. And when I work with my team, oftentimes there are moments where I'll be like, hey, let's not do this thing because I've seen it in the past. And of course, my coworkers weren't there. They didn't experience that. And so potentially an advice that I pass on to specifically your team where you both have to come to a consensus before you move on is you have to let some things go and have faith in your teammate, right? And I know you're like, oh, of course I trust my teammate. We're awesome, right? for me, who I got put into level design position because the other designers on the team were specifically, they were good at what they were currently doing, and they needed to have that role fulfilled. And I said, okay, cool. I see that there's a need here. I'll go fulfill that need, and I can jump into there. Now, there are times when they're balancing a character, like, hey, this character's gun does too much damage, or ability does too much. I have to be like, oh, you know, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing again? You know, and I get so passionate, right? And Lily will see me, and I'm like kicking the ground, and I gotta have faith, right? And there's also something to be said about the lessons they learn from doing the things that they're doing in the same way I learned, right? So if that time comes where you feel very strongly about one way, and your coworker says, no, I feel like we should go the other way, that's okay. You guys are in it together, and be like, hey, yeah, we'll go this way. Here's my opposition to this. Let's try your way. But if it turns out it doesn't work out, let's go back to reasons why. Then maybe next time I got point on this one. So that's helped me. When it comes specifically to level design, I feel like, I know it's going to sound bad, but my work currently right now has me analyzing the best of a previous iteration, and how do we make that best even better, and then making it look better. And so that's really what I've been doing for the last 8 months. I know that's kind of cryptic, but taking a look at like Halo Gulch and the PvP map and saying, hey, why do people love that map so much? Obviously, it's about the player experience. Obviously, it's about saying, hey, you know, why do people remember this so fondly? Is it nostalgia just biting you in the butt? I'm sorry that I can't answer your question because I know what you're looking for. Having said that, I honestly have been looking. There's a really good website that I'll throw it at you. It takes kind of like 100 of the best games, and it actually, in your web browser, will show you a 3D level of, I will remember the name, and it'll come to me, but it's amazing. So it's like games like Donkey Kong 64, right? You'll type it in, and it'll just automatically filter all of those levels out. Then you can see it from a 3D perspective actually in your browser. It's awesome. It's amazing. And I've been using that a lot to see, okay, people like the Gulch from Halo. Why? Why is that? What's up?
Red versus blue.
Red, yeah, RIP to Rooster Teeth. You saw that as well, and that's been something that I've been doing, right? So there's Halo maps in there. There's Call of Duty. There's CS:GO maps, and I use that as a reference to say, okay, you know, out of the list that I've seen of CS:GO maps, right? I use that as a North Star of sorts for me. But yeah.
Blood Gulch has everything. So I mean, you know, you got your long distance, your up close in the bunkers, your vehicles, your sneaks, your stealth. It's got everything. So I get that balance. Yeah. I got a good game balance.
Is there anything else I can potentially help?
No, I appreciate it.
What are some common factors that these levels have?
Yeah.
Asking that in the mic if you would.
Yeah.
What are some common factors that these levels have?
Ooh, common factors that some of these levels have. So I once heard an age-old Adam that I think it rings truer than I thought it was, is that people don't want a fair experience, they want an unfair experience. And I know that sounds weird, right? So people will yell at the internet and be like, I can't believe this character's so overpowered. Like, this level sucks, right? Because I'm getting headshot from across the map and there's no sight lines, right? And I think there's a balance here between letting the player cut loose and having a lot of fun and being able to just absolutely feel like a god, and also having elements of like balance where it keeps the constraints on, and there's ways to say, okay, you shouldn't be going around the map and then like completely doing the thing that you shouldn't be doing. And so I didn't believe it at first. At first I was like, no, every player yearns for a world where everything is balanced and there's no chaos. And because that's what I strive for. I was like, this weapon will be balanced in this TDK and everybody stand in line. That plays over to level design, right? So don't be afraid to break some of the conventions of what is balanced and say, hey, what is fun? And I often lean on an idea that press F for fun, where if a player can hit one button and be like, ooh, okay, I like this, and that there's levels to that in a level.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, other question. Everyone's still trying to figure out the name of the website. We got folks on.
Oh yeah. Man, it's like coin op. I'll figure it out. Man, Craig told me the other night. I just looked it up too. It's really good. It's yeah. I'll look it up. To be determined.
To be determined.
Yeah.
If there were any level design tools you could have that don't exist, what would they be?
Ooh, level design. Better heat maps. I'm sure they do exist, but if I'm making a map for a multiplayer shooter, I would love to see where, hey, these are where the people die. These are the people where they get killed the most, and that way I'd be like, cool, let me, this person's getting sniped here. I can see these like little X's all on the ground. I love that kind of stuff. World of Warcraft has a thing called World of Warcraft logs. And you can compare yourself to other players, but it actually has a really cool replayability feature where you could hit play. It'll show in a time lapse, in a 2D perspective, each each of your guild members are given a icon, and it shows over a course of a 5-minute fight where every player was, where they moved, and where they reacted to the different effects going on. And I'm like, I love this, right? Because I can see each and every single person's reaction to a different thing. So as a level designer, I would love to be able to do in a time lapse to say, okay, cool, these are where the pain points are from a heat map perspective.
Excellent. Is the name of the website NoClip?
Yes.
There we go. From the chat.
Well, good. No clip, everybody. That's a good shout.
NoClip. All right. All right. Last chance for questions. Thank you very much, Forrest.
Good luck, everybody. Good luck.